Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming to our week of mindfulness, rumination or reflection, finding the right balance. To maximize the time, I will keep my intro short and sweet, but we have with us here today Maryann Stark, who is the Senior Organizational Development Strategist at SUNY Upstate Medical University, also a sales strategist with us. So really happy that she is able to work with us today and give us some really great information. So Maryann.
Thanks, Marissa. Hi, everybody. I'm so glad to be with you here today. We have a quick 30 minutes to get through, so there's not enough time to even ruminate over stuff today. So let's just get right into it then. I spent a lot of time talking to people about this topic because it comes up very often on emotional intelligence assessments and tools and surveys. And where's that balance? Why do we ruminate over and over again over things? How can we incorporate more reflection? And what is that happy medium to that? Sometimes people will get their assessments back and they'll have rumination scores that are very high and they were ruminating too much of things over and over again. That really impacts their ability to be confident with their decisions and moving forward with things. And then there's other people who don't ruminate at all. They don't seem to, making very quick decisions and just able to move on. And what's the answer there? I think there's a healthy balance right in the middle. I would say that too much rumination really is that constant repetitive thoughts of you obsessing, turning into obsessions, worrying needlessly over problems or situations, maybe things you can't do about anymore. But some rumination is quite natural, and I even think healthy, especially during stress. You see that happen a little bit more. That's normal. Where we really want you to be with a healthy rumination really is that you are spending just enough time to really reflect on things, create a little bit more self-awareness and insight that will either, maybe decrease your stress, have a little bit more confident about that decision. So we don't want it to impact you. Rumination really keeps you stuck where you are. And can lead to some really nasty side effects as well, which we'll talk about. But the reflection piece, however you do that, can lead you to great acceptance about the decision you made, the confidence, the clarity about situations, and maybe that self-awareness that maybe next time you encounter something like that yourself or maybe somebody else, that you'll be more comfortable and confident in that decision that you made. I really strong believer that things happen for reasons, people's paths cross for reasons. And I think just our ability to calm ourselves, listen, and be much more aware of our surroundings brings us that great clarity that we need in our lives going forward. So really allow yourself the time to process those difficult moments without it necessarily consuming you and remaining stuck. So what are those signs of rumination? How do I know when I've gone too far off the deep end, perhaps? And we all do it, right? When we feel like you're spending maybe more than just a few minutes or idle time on the problem, if it interferes with you and it's not making you feel any better, you actually feel worse doing that than when you started. You've probably gone too far with that. When you have no movement towards acceptance and just moving on and accepting for what it is, dust yourself off and begin from there again. When you feel there's no closer to a viable solution or you really can't change anything and that's more and more frustrating for you. If you continue to relive conversations over and over again and dwelling on those events, things that are certainly out of your control. We all wish to certain parts of our lives or a history that we would have changed or done differently. But when you look back at it, sometimes you realize maybe that was supposed to happen the way it's supposed to happen, and coming to that peace about that. When we become overthinking about decisions, and really for me, it's when you start experiencing physical signs of exhaustion, not sleeping well, depression, inability to concentrate, or side effects of like upset stomach, headaches, difficulty breathing, things like that, then rumination's probably gone a little bit too far for you. You want to get some additional help for that. So I wanted to stop and just see who's here today. It looks like we have about 25 participants, and we're going to pull up a quick poll for you. What types of things do you generally feel that you ruminate over? And why do you suppose you get stuck in rumination? So there's just two questions there. I hope you guys can answer them on your screen right now.
The results are coming in. We have 86% participation, so we'll give it another second. Nice. Okay, 100% participated. So we will
See these results.
show the results.
Okay, so let's see what we got. So all of these are number one answer. I ruminate over everything. So, who is that one person who does not ruminate? Please tell us what is your trick? Why don't you? Were you a ruminator before and now all of a sudden you have some great tools that have stopped you from doing that? If you're willing to unmute and share, I'd love to hear. Marissa, I know it wasn't you.
Certainly not.
But, yeah, most people, yeah, you have a tendency to ruminate over everything. And so a lot of these decisions, relationships, and why is it our work? Am I doing good? Am I doing enough? Did I do it well? Did I hurt somebody's feeling? That it wasn't my intent. And so, a lot of times, let me look at the second question here. Why, right? Was there a second question, Marissa? If I scroll down.
Yes, I'm going to launch this poll.
Oh,
So
okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's launch that too. I thought they were all in the one poll. Go ahead and put up the next one. I wanted to know maybe why.
So this one is, why do you suppose you get caught up in rumination?
Yeah. Let's see. Mm-hmm.
Give folks an extra second. 83%, 87%. Okay. Share these results.
Okay, let's see why. Let's see. What do we have? We really struggle with letting things go out of our control. Yeah, that's really, really tough. And there's some regrets and mistakes we don't know how to fix. And some self-confidence issues for sure. Again, all of that hurting people's feelings and whatnot. So, this is very, very telling. And what can you do about some of these things? I think there's some signs of resiliency, maybe even people when this comes up, is that, I'm not adaptable enough, maybe I'm not confident enough of my skills. I'm not uncertain of my purpose in this situation. And, my support, do we have great social support that we can process things through? So I'd like to talk to you a little bit today about how do you, disrupt rumination. What are some tips that you can try to do that, to find that right balance with that? So, and maybe give you a technique at the end that you can use to help you process this a little bit more. So let's move on. Thanks, Marissa, for putting those polls up. So I still didn't hear from that one person who doesn't ruminate. Maybe they're waiting to hold out till the end. So how can we disrupt rumination and find that better balance? Now more than ever, I think people need to incorporate some sort of mindfulness activities. This week is going to give you a lot of tips and tricks for that itself. But I think when you have time to meditate over things, practice our deep breathing skills, or practice our spirituality, whatever that is for people, doing things like yoga, journaling in particular, might be really helpful to people whose minds always race, to kind of have an outlet for that. When I start to ruminate over things, I try to keep busy. Nothing else fails. I always try to distract myself with some sort of activity. I might get up and go for a walk, get busy. There's always a closet that needs to be cleaned out around here. So, or maybe I really need to process through with a friend, a confidant. And I encourage people, who's on your personal board of directors when this stuff happens, who's sitting around that table of yours that you go to advice for, that you have that emotional support with, that you could just talk that out, because we are our own worst enemy. Our mind is our own worst enemy. And so I encourage people to try to think about how many times a day are you sending yourself positive thoughts versus negative thoughts. I remember when my son was younger, he was sitting at the dining room table doing his homework, and I could hear him getting more and more frustrated over things. And finally he was crunching papers and erasing hard. And finally he threw the book across the table and he said, I can't do this, I'm just so stupid. And I immediately jumped on him because I don't want him to have that last message in his mind that he was stupid, right? And I said, Daniel, you're not stupid. Now you just made a mistake. Now let's just sit here and do this again. And so I encourage you to, even today, keep a tally list on how many times a day are you sending yourself positive thoughts versus negative thoughts, especially in rumination. I should have done that. I should have done that. I can't believe I said that over and over and over again. Try to practice that thought command, that's stopping yourself from that and be like, okay, I did it because in the moment, it's what I had. I thought it was right based on everything else that was around me. Or yeah, my emotions got the best of me. Their emotions, the deadly enemy of the logic. And I misread that cue, or I was off and I owed somebody an apology or something like that. So if there's actionable items from there, then put them into action. I don't think it's ever too late to go back to somebody and be like, you know what, can we just go through that conversation again? Or I think I owe you an apology, or I'm not sure we're on the same page. I think those are always great gestures to have. So if you see that, if it's an actionable item, then go for it. If it's not, and please, I think we need to be kinder to ourselves and forgive ourselves more when that happens. And when you're sharing it with your friend, perhaps maybe make them your accountability buddy. Sometimes I have to put a limit on this rumination, or really would drive myself crazy to the point where I can't do anything else. I can't function, right? So give yourself that 24 hours, to process that, to feel whatever you're going to feel. If you think there's something actionable that you can do and put that into action and change that, great. And if not, what did you learn from it? And maybe your accountability buddy can hold you accountable. Okay, you said you weren't going to talk about this anymore, right? Or maybe they can check on you. How is that going along? But the more you talk about it, I think it's okay. You'll come to some good processing with that, but put that time limit on it. I want to give myself 24, 48 hours to kick myself over this. So usually you will see some new possibilities that will help you move forward and setting those new realistic goals to maybe change your focus as well. One of the things that I really espouse to and would like to share with you today is just the journaling piece. There's other mindfulness activities, but journaling for me, there's over the years, I've always been a writer and enjoy creative writing. It really does help me find that great clarity in my own mind about the situation. And throughout it helps me recognize the other person's point of view as well, and some other things that I might have missed in the moment. And there's lots of great benefits to journaling if it's something that you do or something that you might just want to dabble in, if it's a long-term thing for or particularly in this rumination piece. Because I think it will help you reduce the stress that you're causing yourself by doing that. It will really recognize some behavioral patterns that you might have, bring that clarity that I've talked about. And you'll be surprised if you go back and journal and read your journals over and over again. You'll be able to find what's typically triggers your reactions, your thoughts, and some patterns along the way. And that self-awareness alone can help you go into action in trying to do things a little bit differently going forward. So how do you do this? The greatest thing about journaling is that there's no rules about how to do it. There's no nobody going to judge you. Your journal doesn't judge you by what you wrote, right? So I think that's the greatest thing about journaling. But how do you do it? Natalie Goldberg has a great book on how to do some writing in journals. And some of her key tips are, try to find that 10, 15 minutes a day if you want to do it for a variety of reasons, or if you just want to get it out of your head and on paper. That will help you sleep better and focus better. And so, if you're going to start I use a personal labyrinth, like a printable labyrinth, and I kind of trace that and it kind of gets my focus. I love finding labyrinths in the community that I can walk through and do this in my head instead of maybe writing. So whatever works for you, but kind of take some deep breaths, kind of close your eyes and think about, how am I feeling right now? What is this? How has this situation got me so twisted? And I wonder how I could have handled it different, or I remember it this way, but I wish it was this way. And your first thoughts in journaling really have your most energy. They're your most uncensored ones, because it's actually what you see and feel and how you live that, not what you think you should see and feel. So I encourage you to keep maybe like a gel pen and kind of just never pick your pen off the paper and continue to write and flow through those emotions, flow through those thoughts as you tell the story. Keep your hand moving. Don't worry about punctuation. Again, your journal is not going to judge you, right? Nobody else is going to read it unless you share it with somebody. But who cares if you didn't spell something right or whatever? So don't cross things off. So just let that go and it will come to you. Be comfortable with that silence, I think. So it's a beautiful art that I think you will find some benefit to it in rumination. And here's the approach. Here's the journaling activity that I would encourage you to do. If you're just beginning journaling, or if you really specifically just want to focus on how can I find more balance between rumination and reflection, I think this is a great activity. I use this very often in emotional intelligence in particular, but it's a silly name, A, B, C, D, E, right? But if you write this down, A stands for describe that event, describe what triggered you, okay? The B is, what do you believe about the situation? What are you telling yourself occurred? How are you feeling about that? C, what are the consequences of those thoughts? What are you left with? Feelings, the behaviors. If you've looked at it again, what did I look like, sound like, act like, feel like? What was the impact of all of that? And then D is a lot of where a lot of your reflection will come into place, debate, dispute, discard what you wrote in B and C, and just really get into it. Where's the proof? Why am I driving myself crazy with this? Are there more logical explanations for what happened? Is it all on me or not? Can I live with this? What do I need to do to change this? And I love this question. We're always this great Monday morning quarterbacks. If this happened to somebody else, and if somebody else was ruminating over this, what advice would I give them? And how come we don't take our own advice? Has a similar situation maybe happened to you in the past? The more you journal and you keep track of that, you might be able to go back and reflect and read on different scenarios and be like, here it is again, Maryann. And you'll be able to identify that and change that course for next time. And what did I learn from those past experiences that maybe I can apply to this one? And then E is, think that through then. How has that shifted your whole feelings and behaviors about that situation? And has that enlightenment, that clarity, that recognition, can it help you then move on from that? We're all not perfect, but like I said, I think we need to maybe forgive ourselves a little bit more and be kind to ourselves. And if you couple that journaling experience with that support person in your life that you can share that with and say, you know what, just let me talk this through with you. And then if you keep hearing me say it again and again, just tell me to stop. I thought you were going to stop that, and they'll hold you accountable and do maybe something else to kind of distract you from that moment. And, but I think there's lessons in everything that we're doing. There's a reason for that. So, but emotions do seem to be the deadly enemy of logic sometimes. So if they're keeping you stuck, I encourage you to do some sort of mindfulness activity, and maybe this journaling activity will help you. We have about 10 more minutes left, and I'm wondering if you'd be willing to try this. And if I stop talking for about 5 minutes or so, if a thing that you're typically, or if you're currently ruminating about something, or you want to review something in that, try to journal, try to take out a piece of paper right now and go through these steps. And we'll come back maybe for the last 5 minutes and talk about what that was like for you, if it was good activity to try to journal through this, and what discoveries you might have made. So Marissa, how about that? We'll just pause for 5 minutes while people try to write using this ABCDE approach.
Sure. And there was one question in the chat. Is there a preference between journaling with pen or computer?
Oh, I'm an old-fashioned person. I like the feel of the pen and the paper. I think it's a personal choice. I personally just on the computer too much. I know there are particular journaling websites maybe penzu.com comes to mind that you can do that, but I feel I'm just on the computer too much and I personally don't do that. But if that works for you, that's great. I know some people who record, they'll just hit the record button on their cell phone as they're walking and they'll go through the same thing and then they'll listen to it over and over again too. So whatever works for you guys is fine. You know, you have to find that best balance for you.
Great. Yeah. And I even I have a digital journal app. It's called Day One. So yeah, whatever works. So we can take, let's say, what do you think? 5 minutes or?
Yeah, let's do 5 minutes. I have 11:20. So I think we do 5 and then we'll wrap up in 5.
All right. Sounds good.
Great.
Okay, Maryann, it is 11:25.
Thanks, Marissa. So feel free to unmute and share with us how was that experience for you? I find it helpful at all. I'm just curious if you made any discoveries through your thoughts of writing that down. Thoughts, suggestions, other things that people use in our last 5 minutes to learn from each other.
I'll speak up.
Hello.
Hello? Okay.
Yeah, hi, go ahead.
I did some returning to the same questions journaling with Pod Reflects, and I found coming back to the same questions is super valuable. The other thing that I found out is it doesn't have to be daily. We did it once a month for 4 months, and it was relevatory. Like we really, because we were returning to the same or similar questions, it was really, really enlightening. So
great, awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So, Liz, I think is raised hand.
Yes, hi, thank you. So I really liked this. I really try to journal, but I'm not great at it. I'm not consistent with it. But I really liked this approach, and I'm actually going through something right now. I have COVID, and last Friday I tested positive, and it ended up keeping my whole family home from a big family wedding in Maine and also a big 100th birthday celebration in Pennsylvania for my grandfather. And you know, I've really been ruminating over like, how did this happen? I'm the only one in the family that tested positive. This is my 3rd time having COVID now. And, you know, I've just felt so guilty. And so working through each one of these has really helped me kind of feel better about the decision we made in not going, even though we really wanted to go. So thank you for this. Like, this was really helpful.
Oh, great. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm so glad to hear that. So, other thoughts, experiences, discoveries?
If I can share mine, can everybody hear me? So I find the journaling to be really helpful. I do try lots of the time to speak to, you know, my husband to try and talk things out. But one thing that I find from the journaling to be especially useful is that sometimes when you're talking to someone else, it can sort of feel like the responsibility is on them to get you out of the spiral, you know? Whereas the ABCDE approach, like, you're supposed to then counter your own feelings. So it's not like this adversarial relationship where you're digging in deeper and deeper to your negative feelings. It's kind of like, okay, we acknowledge the negative feelings, and now is that actually realistic? And to be forced to actually think that through instead of, you know, relying on someone else to be able to like out argue you, I guess, I find to be really helpful.
Great, fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And sometimes if I share with my husband, I end up getting more mad at him than anything else. Like, how come you didn't side with me? So it was better I go to my journal. So other thoughts, other things that people do that might be helpful to share. So, but Marissa, we're probably almost out of time. I know.
Yes, yeah.
See that,
So-
that quick 30 minutes, again, we don't have time to ruminate on this session because we gotta go.
Exactly.
but,
Yeah, and
you
I
know,
don't see anything in the chat, so
Okay, great.
but I wanted to say thank you so much, Marianne, for these strategies, and definitely I know I can certainly use them, and it sounds like this approach has worked for others that put it into practice. So thank you very much. I want to thank you to the attendees for being part of this for this week, and we will be sending the recording of this session out after via email to all registrants. And thank you so much, and hopefully we're going into the summer with a great mindset and more calm and ways to really tackle the future. So thank you so much. Have a great day.
Bye now. Thanks, everybody. Take care.